Well, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Kitchen Table TCG. My name is Louie, and I hope you're having yourself a fantastic day. Today, as promised yesterday in our video about the whole Magic the Gathering Universes Beyond sets and the announcements for 2026, I promised you that today we were going to talk about collector booster boxes. In particular, I do want to address the Final Fantasy collector boxes, not seeing a winter set and a winter printing. But then I thought this would be a good opportunity to take a look at kind of the most hyped up collector boxes from the last couple years and see what makes them tick and what makes a Lord of the Rings special collector edition box $2,500 versus what we are seeing with the current boxes of Spider-Man, and give you guys some of my thoughts on looking at this product now that we have seen some of the negativity and the direction that it's going currently. So we're going to talk about all the collector boxes and really get into a little bit of the details and the nitty gritty on that. Just my takes. I'm curious on your opinions as well. Remember, a YouTube channel like this, you're going to hear things from me. I have my own biases. I own a store. That's a bias. I do own some of these products, although I sold most of my special collector edition allocation for at cost, basically, as a result of not believing in that product when it came out, and we'll talk about that as well. So let's take the news this week first. Final Fantasy has been this wild, speculative conversation. You had the collector boxes come out at like $750, and they just kind of gradually kept going up, and then they kind of flatlined a couple of weeks after release at around $1,200. I remember at the time we were at Collecticon in Cleveland, and that was kind of the going rate of a box. And right now they're sitting at the same price, about $1,200, maybe $1,300 for a Final Fantasy collector box. And a lot of the conversation of the risk for Final Fantasy collector boxes was not anything to do with the demand or the interest in Final Fantasy in the set. We knew, and it's the number one selling Magic set of all time. We knew that was there. But a lot of the risk that people see with a $1,300 Final Fantasy collector box was that historically we saw Lord of the Rings and then the Lord of the Rings Special Collector Edition that was a winter release and kind of a surprise winter release, not something that we really knew was coming out. And through this whole Final Fantasy thing, we've known that there was some sort of winter set coming for Final Fantasy, and that has just been announced. And there is no collector box. There's no special collector, super weird collector box for Final Fantasy like there was with Lord of the Rings, where they completely redo the set, they completely do different art and different themes and different serialized cards. We're not going to see that. Instead, for Final Fantasy, we're getting mechanically unique bundles. I believe there's like 5 or 6 of them. I can't remember off the top of my head. But there's scene bundles. And then there's also the Chocobo Commander bundle thing. And all these have mechanically unique cards in it, which is really interesting. I don't know how I feel about that whole thing. That's a whole nother dynamic of Magic the Gathering that feels weird. I do like the idea that they can print cards that maybe don't work for a limited format into these mechanically unique bundles. I certainly like that they're doing it through the distribution system. They're doing it through products that will be at your local game store rather than secret layers. I think that's a much better take than going to secret layer with mechanically unique cards. But for the purposes of this video, I want to focus that there's not that second wave. There's not that second product that's going to produce more singles into the marketplace from the collector box perspective. In my opinion, again, I want to share, I have some collector boxes. I don't have like a house full of collector boxes in a basement or something like that. I don't have this like massive inventory of Final Fantasy collector boxes. I sold most of mine, for Final Fantasy on release week, that kind of thing. I do have some biases, but I really think that the lack of risk now for Final Fantasy collector boxes is going to drive the price. I've been saying since the summer, since that Collecticon, I really have a lot of faith that collector boxes for Final Fantasy are going to hit around $2,000 by the end of the year, by Christmas, as long, barring that there's not some sort of big shift in the climate of the United States of America and some sort of big, extra event that happens that's not related to Magic the Gathering, I just think that the natural trajectory of these boxes, after not seeing the special collector box, is just going to go on a tear. And so it's really interesting to see that, because here's in my opinion some of the tops. It's going to be really hard to see something get above Lord of the Rings Special Collector Edition, and here's why. Lord of the Rings Special Collector Edition, when it got purchased by people, nobody liked it. It was the complete opposite of Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy came out, everybody loved it. The demand increased through the release of Final Fantasy. With the Lord of the Rings Special Collector Edition, the box that's now $2,500, nobody wanted it. You saw Rudy, he was doing negative videos about it. He sold it to his patrons for basically at distribution costs. You saw across the board, all the tiny content creators like me, we were all poo-pooing it. I saw stores freaking out. I, as a store, freaked out. It was a difficult time for us as a store. We were just in a much different realm than we are now. And it was a lot of money to put up for those collector boxes. We cracked open all of our collector boxes for singles because we didn't want to take a loss on it on the secondary market after fees and shipping. I think we ended up making like $800 or something like that out of $50,000 worth of Lord of the Rings Special Collector Edition boxes. Absolutely crazy. If we would have just held them and kept them and not cracked them open, we'd have a Porsche. It would be like a $100,000 gain or something ridiculous like that. Even more than that if those numbers are right. And the point is that when Lord of the Rings Special 2 came out, Special Collector Edition 2 came out, nobody wanted it. So the boxes that ended up in the hands of people are the boxes that people wanted. It wasn't just a speculative thing. It was boxes that were either getting opened because people wanted to rip cheap packs and it was easy to hunt down the serialized, or it was boxes of people who like, man, I love Lord of the Rings and I really, really believe in this product. Now that's a shift from what we saw with Spider-Man. With Spider-Man, we saw all these, it was so much more speculative. It was so less people who wanted Spider-Man and more people who wanted to speculate, hoping that it would become this Final Fantasy thing that would just increase in demand and increase in the future of the release cycle. Which brings us to this really, really weird spot. You've got kind of a cap, in my opinion, of $2,500. Right now, I don't understand why a Final Fantasy box would approach the same price as Lord of the Rings 2 without those, the other one going up. You got this weird place where the negativity has set in for Spider-Man. And there has to be a bottom for Spider-Man. In my opinion, I'm not going to give numbers because I don't want it to think like I'm trying to promote like people to go out and buy Spider-Man for some reason. But when I look at Spider-Man and I see a $25,000 card in it, at some point we get to the same point at which Spider-Man looks a lot like Special Collector Box 2. Hold on. In that the demand for the singles will outdrive the box price. And I don't know where that number is. I don't think it's necessarily here at $525 a box or that kind of thing. But when you have a $25,000 hit, and there's multiple stores out there offering $25,000 for that serialized, the non-serialized super special Soulstone, then you've got the borderless card that's $2,000 still, holding pretty strongly. I think that there's still a lot of room for that Spider-Man box to become something that a lot of people are going to be negative about, but actually has some pretty good upside. The negativity of this, though, is also magnetized by that there's not as many cards in the set. And this is something that I said about the set kind of early on, that I was a little bit worried about this set because it's smaller. There's not as many unique cards as you see in like a bigger set, which means there's, it's like 30% less cards than your average Magic set. And so when you see that, it's less cards that your friends want to put in their commander decks. It's less packs that you want to open because it's easier for you to get the cards you want, unless it's a Soulstone, which is impossible to pull. And so all those things kind of culminate into this idea. You've got these 4 collector boxes, these 4 kind of timelines and sets, and this is the biggest thing for you as a consumer or as a store or whatever, is that don't overextend. So many people overextended themselves on Spider-Man, which forced them to have to sell their boxes, even though there is some upside potential that's happening at some point with Spider-Man. So I'm curious what you think about all those sets. I think when you have a set that has 50, let's say that Soulstone drops to $15,000, it's still an opportunity there, in my opinion, for Spider-Man. But when you start looking at the numbers, it's like, man, some of those other sets are just better. They're just better sets. And I think at the end of the day, it'll be really interesting to see where Spider-Man ends up. Hopefully you have yourself a fantastic day. Those are my thoughts on the collector boxes that everyone's kind of talking about these days. Never mind the in-universe Magic Commander deck, collector boxes that are also doing really well. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you have yourself a fantastic day. We'll see you again next video.